Sir, if you all please rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pam, could you do a roll call, please?
Mayor Kime, Alderwoman Dobbs. Here. Alderman Fahey. Alderman Donovan.
Here.
Alderman Huey.
Here.
Alderman Eidman.
Here.
Alderman Ross.
Here.
Alderman Prince.
Here.
Alderman Steiger.
Here.
We have a quorum.
If you haven't noticed, the mayor is on vacation this week, so relinquished me to run the meeting tonight as president of the board. So you're stuck with me tonight. So approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We have presentations and awards, and I don't see any on here yet. Okay. We'll move to personal appearances. We have one slated. Brian Gray, the owner of Gaslight Ghost Tours. Brian, if you'd like to speak, step up to the podium, introduce yourself, your name, and where you're from, and state your business.
All right. Well, my name is Brian Gray, and I live right here in town. And of course, everybody I'm sure knows Brock here. So basically, what I wanted to do is I'd like to gain access to the cemetery. We resumed ghost tours this season. We're getting ready to start. We haven't done them in a few years. We had them up through COVID, and then COVID shut us down. I brought them back for a year or so, and then I traveled, so I wasn't able to do them. So this is my first year bringing them back. So we used to have access to the cemetery. During a tour, we would go into the cemetery gates. We'd stay on the path, and we would walk up to where the cross is, the Jesus statue right there. We would tell a few stories, and then we would leave. We were in the cemetery for about 10 to 15 minutes top. During that time, no one was allowed off the path. No one was allowed to wander around the cemetery. So I wanted to bring that back this season. And the reason why I wanted to do that is because with everything that's Brock's doing and everything that the community is doing to bring tourists back to town, I thought this may be a great opportunity to kind of spark that interest again, to bring people back for the ghost tours. When I first started them, we'd have 70 to 80 guests per tour. It was fantastic. Of course, it dropped off for COVID, but I see a lot of people ask me to bring them back, and I just have never had the interest to do so until this season. I thought, well, this would be a great way to just get the community involved, to get the people back here. And so my question is, would you allow me to go into the cemetery at night, spend about 10 or 15 minutes in the cemetery, and then leave with my tour guest, lock it back up, and then head on down the street and continue the tour? So like I said, no one will be allowed out of my sight. No one's allowed off the path. And I have always made sure of that. I never had issues when we did a tour before. Guests were just excited to be there and to be a part of it. I could honestly go into the cemetery, just walk people in and just let them experience it. I don't even have to tell any stories. They just want to be able to go in and be a part of that. We have something fantastic here in town and in the community, and to shut that off early, and most of the guests that come down for a tour, they don't get down here till dinner time anyway, so they don't get that opportunity. So why not give them that opportunity to experience that, and then lock it up when I leave, and that would be it. Right now I only have plans to do one, possibly 2 tours a month, with the exception of October. Now I know the Spirit Reunion has been brought up, and that's fine. I can skip that night and not do a tour out of respect for the foundation. Let them have that night. I don't need to do a tour that night. So if they allow me to, great. We don't start till 8 p.m. But if not, I'm okay not doing a tour that night. So,
And we were thinking like there would be maybe like a box or something with a key in it that we would check in and out or something when it was time to use it.
Yeah, or I could get it from somebody. Don't mind going, checking it out from someone here, and then returning it. However you want me to do it, I can do it either way. But like I said, just 1 or 2 tours a month, just up through October, and that would be the end of it. Each season, that's how it would run. So I'm not going to do them every weekend like I used to. But so anyway, that's my proposals. I'm just asking for permission to go into the cemetery at night. We'd be getting there around 8:45 probably, in there till about 9 o'clock, and then we'd be out. So.
Board having Alderman comment?
I don't know. I've seen
Mr. Weiler here from from the foundation and stuff tonight. Was there some opposition on their
No, I
part?
think they've got a
No, there was,
couple,
yeah.
they've got.
We already cleared,
Yeah.
we went through the foundation first. We followed the chain of command. We went through the foundation. They gave us permission, told us our next step. So I know there's been some stuff on the internet that we didn't approach the foundation. We actually did. In fact, the email that was sent out, that was posted online, that is my original email to the foundation. I don't know how that was leaked out, but regardless, that was my initial conversation with the foundation before all this
He sent the
started.
stories, they approved the stories.
I think
Right.
they've, the foundation had a board meeting back in May. They discussed it. They had a couple stipulations. They want the information that they share in the cemetery to be kind of as factual, as historical as they can. And I think Brian has kind of agreed to that.
Absolutely.
They also want to make sure that there is no path from that last tomb or headstone to the crucifix. So your people, if they're walking all the way to the crucifix, will be.
We didn't go to the crucifix. We stopped at that little gravel spot where the benches were, where there was that's where we stopped. We never went into the grass.
And then I think they're pretty agreeable, even including the weekend that they do their event or one of their rain out. They normally try to get out of there by 8 or 8:30. So if your event would start at, 8:30 or 8:45 or 9,
Yeah.
I think you could even potentially work with them to get an event that day, just be later after they finish their Deja Vu
Yeah.
event earlier in the, because they want to be out by 8.
Absolutely. And we wouldn't even get there we don't even start the tour till 8, so I wouldn't be there till 8:45. It takes me 45 minutes to get to the church, so, that's about the time.
So how do we get approval, and do we need to come
I
up
don't
with
know if we
logistics?
need a contract for them to use it after hours. I don't know.
My issue is not the use, it's the fact that we're gonna need insurance to cover it.
That's-
And they were trying to, they don't want to don't want to utilize that cost or get that cost.
Well, I mean,
For the-
I don't know what the cost is.
We've already reached out to Steve Platty, so they're already checking around with an insurance company that would provide insurance to the tour company. So that wouldn't fall on anyone's shoulders except mine. So like I would provide insurance for the tour group. So, that would be under my
I
company.
think if you can get the city indemnified, for accidents or whatnot, I think that would probably be another big hurdle and
Yeah.
probably, so maybe just keep working with our city administrator.
Okay.
It sounds like, did I misspeak anything from the foundation's point, Skip?
No, I think he presented it, he did reach out to us first, and we kind of pushed it to you because we don't own it, we are in partnership with the city, we maintain it, and you would be the one with the insurance, so that's kind of where, we left it with you.
So it is covered under our insurance.
Well, but if they have guests come in,
Right,
as a business, we need to be an additional insured in case something happens.
right.
I don't anticipate anything.
How is that different than a tour bus coming in and that tour bus group going in there?
I don't know of any tour bus groups that have gone in there except what the foundation has brought in recently.
I think it'd just be an added layer. I think if we could get named as an added insured, I think it would just be smart and behoove us to do that. It doesn't cost anything to add us as an additional insured, so if he has insurance on his business, and to add us as an additional insured would just give us that much more protection for.
And if he was just gonna stay outside on the streets, we wouldn't require it. If you were just gonna look into the cemetery, but they want the experience of going in.
So do we have to come back here and get like an official approval, or is that something we could just,
I think you can keep working with the city
and then just take the
administrator.
logistics down and?
I think the board needs to, you've got an item on the agenda, we could voice it.
When would you be proposing the first ones to start?
I was going to start the tours on June 20th. But I know that's really soon. I could have my insurance done by then, but if we,
We'd have it done by then.
yeah, well then June 20th was when I was wanting to start it.
Which we can get the logistics down between now and then for sure. And if we have to vote, maybe we just vote on it and contingent on insurance.
Brian, you did this before, you said it's been quite a few years.
Yeah.
What kind of script do you have, or your narrative? Because you said you went in with the group, and you did talk about the cemetery, and I guess people that are buried there.
Right.
So you have a script now?
I do have a script. I have a script. It's about 30 pages long. It's quite a large script. That covers the entire route. Now, as far as the cemetery, I don't talk about too many figures. I talked about Dr. Walter Fenwick, okay, because we pass his tomb right there on the left as we go in. I talk about the steamboat disaster, okay, that happened down here on the Mississippi because they have the mass grave that's inside the cemetery. I touch on that. And other than that, it's not a lot of information I give in the cemetery. Like I said, it's more about the experience. I talk about everything is a segue for me. So when I go into the cemetery, once I get down to the end of the tour where Brock's restaurant is, where Audubon's is, I finish up stories that I start in the cemetery, like with Dr. Fenwick, because it used to be Fenwick's bar, and there's a dueling pistols on the glass behind his bar. So everything kind of leads one story to the next. So it's just more about the experience of going in, not as many stories. I talk about, how many people they say are buried in the cemetery, but also how many they talk about that could be buried there. So just things like that. Kind of more basic information,
And I think you mentioned something about you've been working with the commission as far as narrative, what to talk about.
I sent the foundation what I was going to talk about, and that's what I'll stick to. So I don't go off of my script.
Okay.
So what I sent them is what we're going to discuss, and that's the end of that. It's very, very straight and to the point. I only have so much time, so I just kind of go through, everything's memorized, and then I move on to the next
You
location.
mentioned a segue. Do you use a segue, or does it?
No, not a segue. I use not a segue as far as the segue you ride. I use stories to lead me to the next story. Okay, so I'll talk about something in the cemetery that story will continue down at Audubon's or continue down at the Felix Valley House, things like that. So yeah,
I've been on tours before.
I wish we had Segway too. I wish all my guests could ride Segways. That'd be great. But at this point, it's just a walking tour.
All right, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Any other questions or any other concerns? I'd just like a
Motion. Second.
Yeah, we could do a motion. I take a
Motion.
to approve the
Approve this.
use of the
second it.
cemetery.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Moving on to city, I'll ask, is there any more personal appearances?
Yeah.
Okay.
They have to be on the table.
We'll do city administrator's report.
Few items that, at your seats, I'm gonna go through a couple of them. Number one, numbers are up on our app. We have 113 Apple users, 43 Android users. What I would like to start doing, is using the app for the distribution of the packets. We can put the full packet on there. If you have the app on your phone, you can get right to the documents. So there's a document section, and it'll get you to what the current agendas are. So that's something we can think about instead of emailing it all the time. You can access it that way, because if you don't get email, you know where you can find it. Prior to 2020, the city assisted the Jurdefet Committee by hauling and spreading gravel at Moses Austin Park. They are asking us to do that again because the gravel has disappeared, just been worn off. Does the board want to do that again, where we haul it and we spread it, but we don't pay for it? They actually get a donation of the rock for the park.
So is Alliance okay with doing
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
That's it.
Would there be an extra charge for that, or they just do it out of?
We did it as in kind.
Yeah.
It's just our contribution, where somebody else will either, they'll donate the rock. We'll go get it with our vehicles. We use our vehicles and manpower to spread that rock.
Yeah, but when you say we, you mean the city or you mean Alliance?
It's the same difference in the respect that Alliance is gonna have to do the work for us, because they use the equipment. It's their responsibility to get it and then spread that rock.
Okay, there'd be no extra charge or anything like that?
Yep.
Okay.
So, just trying to get a feeling is the board okay with that?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't think anything-
Good work done by the partways across the grounds.
Okay.
I'm gonna go back just one second to the packets on the app.
Yeah.
Would that include everything that's in our packet? So, like Alderman Rainey would like to follow along with, a former Alderman, Randy, would like to follow along. So would all the documents be in there minus any closed session
Right.
documents? Okay,
That's the idea.
okay.
Yep.
Well, you'll make him very happy, so.
And that's what the plan is, work session. We did the work session agenda, came through fine with the full packet. We can do the same thing with the board member packets as well, so. We'll start doing that.
You have a process to kind of keep out closed session minutes and packet information, I guess, then to make sure that doesn't.
Pam and I have to work on that before we send it out in email anyway, because it goes to media at the same time it goes to
Yeah.
the board members. So we may back away from doing the emails and then just put it online. Okay. Item 5, Lakin Insurance went out for bid on our insurance. They were checking for prices. It looks like we're close to signing with Myrma. We meet with Lakin next week to find out what that price is. At this point, we have to have it passed and ready to go by July 1st. So just beware that at the next meeting, there'll be an ordinance that'll need 2 readings. But it seems like it's a pretty significant savings. And they will cover all of our insurance, so it'll be liability, casualty, and workers' compensation. So we don't have separate companies to deal with. So
So you said there was a significant savings. Is that because we're dropping off the work comp mod rating, or is that?
I don't know if it's because we're combining it with Myrma and just the way the pool works. I think we've had a good couple of years.
Right.
So our record now reflects that. So by making this move, we're getting with a group that if we follow, and the other thing is that they've got more rules and regulations and they do audits 5 times a year on the city. So, I mean, they'll come in and look at our buildings, equipment, paperwork, make sure that we're following the rules and regulations that we need to. And then with that, it'll keep our prices down. But we also have fewer employees because we don't have, Lion Stuff's a public works now, so we don't have that cost. So I think that's what also has helped reduce the amount. But it's pretty significant, and they also checked with our current provider, and the numbers, were high. And then item 7, we have settled on a new design for business cards. I think I put a copy of it at your seats, maybe not. Anyway, does anybody want business cards besides Alderman Ross?
What does it say?
It's got your name and information, whatever you want us to put as a phone number. Yeah. So it's the actual business card for our folks. I must not have passed it out. I got sidetracked this morning with the agreements. So, but if you want business cards, we're going to get 250 at a time. Depends on if you can let me know.
Chief, if we put it underneath our windshield wipers, can we get out of parking tickets?
I'm sure you can try. Can I get a bumper sticker?
So that's what I've got. If anybody's got any questions.
Okay. Move on to staff reports. David Bowen, Community Development.
Good evening, everyone. Got my report there. Under the building department, you'll see there's a demo permit we issued. I usually let you all know that'll be 1040 Market. I don't have a date for it, but that house will be coming down probably in the next week or so.
And they are going to rebuild the house there.
That's the plan. Yeah, that's the plan. No plans have been submitted, but that is what he intends to do.
Where was that at?
1040 Market?
The one that burned?
No.
Back.
Across the street.
A little further up.
On up further up the street, yeah. Past
That new entrance.
past
to,
10th Street.
Carriage House, the new entrance.
The sidewalk letters were mailed out a couple weeks ago. 11 notices, that's incorrect. That's 9, and then there are 2 city properties. So just an FYI there. Come down to planning and zoning. So our next scheduled meeting, since the first Thursday falls on the day before July 4th, Independence Day, we're going to push that meeting to July 17th.
Dave, which 2 city sidewalks are we working on?
That'll be the sidewalk on Leahy near North 4th. So as you cross the bridge, it's right there. And then the one on the second block of Washington, it's where across from the old mill. There's a property there that's a flooded buyout property that's leased. and the sidewalk is bad. If you go on to page 2, there's a little bit of information there about the improvements to the ferry landing that the Rotary had tried to do. That project may have run out because of some hurdles, but kind of wanted to talk a little bit about, you'll see on down under floodplain management, I always let you know that the ferry is currently operating Friday through Sunday. I think Aaron's going to give you some more information here in a little bit, and then we have a work session item, but ferry's down to its last few weeks of funding. We shared a survey with you all probably 2 or 3 months ago that showed I think over 1,800 responses, 1,900 responses. So brings a lot of guests and tourists across the river. So just take that into consideration. But I think Aaron's going to give you some more details on that. I just wanted to kind of bring it up here in the report. And then you've got the property maintenance numbers there. That's about all I have, unless you have any questions.
Dave,
Yes, sir.
the sidewalk issue, I've talked with a couple of people, the sidewalk on the bridge, excuse me, I know we're not getting a bridge right away. That sidewalk, I feel, needs some attention there,
It does need attention.
because somebody could trip on that, whether they do or not, and say they did, and we wouldn't know any difference. There's no camera on it or anything else.
Yeah, we talked about it in years past, but of course, we're waiting on that FLAP grant, and we didn't want to spend money to improve that.
Time's going on now, we're set back another year, possibly. And we're coming into the tourist season. There again, the trouble on new sidewalk all the way up to it, and now we get to that.
Yes.
That's the first thing we see when we come to town. I think it'd be a simple fix for our liability of what it looks like.
We could take a look at it.
Any other questions for Dave?
Dave, I guess this improvements to the ferry landing is kind of, I mean, are they kidding? $10,000 a year for a lease?
No.
That's the
You
minimum.
know that we want to improve for them and stuff?
Well, we also had a local elected official offer to purchase that property so that we can make improvements. Turned in a respectable bid and was denied and told that it was probably worth 5 times that. So I do not believe they intend to work with us.
I can tell you from my own personal experience, they're not workable people. But
Yes, sir.
Unbelievable.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Dave.
Yep.
Fire Chief, can you start?
Good evening, everyone. You should have a copy of my report. We don't have a lot to talk about. Staffing's remained the same. We did have a couple applications, but they were denied because of a couple of problems. They're running about the same on the call load, running right at where what we did last year. Probably the biggest thing is the education. Our people are doing all kinds of education. As you see by the report, we had 3 that finished firefighter 1 and 2. They're waiting for their state certifications now. I actually had the pleasure last month also of dressing up in my fancy suit, presenting a completion of paramedic class to one of our firefighters who eventually wants to be a career firefighter paramedic. She's trying to finish up her clinical hours now, so hopefully in a few months she'll be a full-fledged paramedic. And if you saw our Facebook page, I had a little joke on there about having a beer truck delivery to the firehouse. I did apply through the National Volunteer Fire Council and Anheuser-Busch products. We had 98 cases of canned water donated to us, which we're going to help distribute out to some of the other departments in the county. And we'll have some spare water and won't have to buy some for a while. So I'd be open to any questions.
Any questions for Ken? Thanks, Ken. I'm sorry, go on.
One question here. I guess it's been kind of a pea under my saddle there, but the water rescue, you guys do that at Lake Lasada, correct?
We did that one. That was a county-sponsored deal.
Yeah. Has there ever been a water rescue training or anything like that in the actual river?
Not in the river itself. We don't have boat capabilities. The sheriff's department has the only crew boats that are capable of being on the water.
Okay, so that's the sheriff's department.
Yeah, they have a big Coast Guard cutter type, not cutter, but a Coast Guard rescue type boat.
I just wondered, because we're a river town, practice our rescues in a lake, which is completely opposite, deals.
we looked at it, and we actually had a John boat offered to my department by the sheriff's department that only had a 25 horse motor, and I didn't want
That's not
a
enough.
chance to be out on the river, so I told them no, and they gave it to Bloomsdale, so Bloomsdale hosted it, and we use those on lakes. We also do carry things like throw ropes and life jackets and everything for being around water. We also have ice rescue suits. So we are equipped to do some, but we're not equipped to be on the river. If it comes to that, it's the sheriff's department or conservation department. I've been with the department for almost 40 years, and I can only think of 3 times we've been on the river. And those times, we actually used our personal boats and went out there and took care of what we had to take care of.
Okay. Good answer.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Tourism, Aaron Smith.
Hello, everyone. I wanted to start by saying that we have some really positive momentum going on our website and our social media. Our website visits are up. Our click-through rate is up on our website. Hearing from businesses, Beige Farms, they have a weekly event that's advertised in our events plugin, and they're seeing a lot of conversion from that. So I think that's super positive. And people are interacting more with our Facebook and Instagram. You know, every Monday we post the list of events that are happening throughout St. Genevieve. And of course, if you haven't heard me say this before, our website and our social media is there to draw people to town and to make sure people know what's going on and that they can make an easy decision on, hey, we know this is what's going on. We're going to come down and see it. And I think we're starting to see that happen. People are sending us messages on Facebook and Instagram. How do I buy tickets for this? How do I, give me some more information about that. So I think it's really leading people to making that decision. So that's excellent. The bulk of my report is, signs. The billboard is up on the Bloomsdale exit, which I think looks really great. And we're getting that through a matching grant from the state that is giving us money for welcome and wayfinding signs. So starting with the big stuff on the highway, and then as people come into town, we'll be replacing the billboard by Mississippi Lime. And for this year, we got a smaller grant, though, and as you can see, we're doing our wayfinding signs. So the corner wayfinding signs that you see throughout downtown, we're replacing all of those within that same brand that you see on the billboard. So we're making our visual language that we built with the rebrand, and it is going to start having a physical impact on how people interact with our town. And then if anybody wants to see, I've got that really cool metal liver dumpling sign in my office. If anybody wants to go take a look at that on the way out, a lot of people have been coming in the office and looking at it and going, wow, that's cool. It's a great looking sign, and I think, everybody has a lot of pride in this town and the interesting things we offer, like liver dumplings. And then I'll wind this up with the ferry talk. As David said, we're in our last couple of weeks, and I just don't think we can lose this thing. And I know we're going to do a work session, and we have Jeremy Tans from CMO RPC who can give you the numbers better, but it sounds like we're looking at giving them $25,000 or getting a bunch of organizations to give $25,000 to the ferry so that it can keep running. They're going to take that money and use it for a federal matching grant. It'll help them, pay for some of the losses from March through April, and then hopefully keep going until the state reimbursements kick in August. Of the 1,900 people, and I think everybody was very surprised that they got 1,900 people participating in this survey. It shows, again, how beloved this thing is. 70% of those were tourists, and most of those were tourists coming from Illinois to St. John. Going to the wineries, going to the water park, coming to the French heritage sites. And I think if we can just get over this little hump, I think we're very close. Illinois, for the past few years, has been, introducing an appropriations bill that would be for Illinois year over year to give $250,000 to the ferry, which would help it run 7 days a week. And it's gotten farther than it's ever gotten before. And I think with some of the things that I've been doing, some of the connections I've been making in, especially within the Chicago sort of French Heritage Society, I think we have a real shot of getting this through this time because, they're very aware of this. And in Illinois, in the past legislative cycle, they made March French Heritage Month in Illinois, which goes to show you how powerful the people who are in the French Heritage Society in Chicago and in Illinois actually are, because from what the president of that foundation told me is the French Heritage doesn't really get interesting until you get down here to Fort de Chartres and Kaskaskia and these super old sites. And the fact that, basically the ferry serves, if you were going in Illinois and you were trying to do a French Heritage tour, you would have to cross the ferry over for the ferry to get to Kaskaskia in any sort of timely manner. Otherwise, you have to go from Fort de Chartres an hour and a half around the Chester Bridge here. So I think, that hasn't yet been used as a way to get that funding. And I think if we can frame it that way and using a couple of other friends that we have over there, I think we can get this through, but we need to get it over the hump. And I put a Facebook post out last week. It went bonkers. Almost 1,000 likes and shares and almost 1,000 comments, and people just really save the ferry, save the ferry, save the ferry. So, I have other efforts. I would love to find some ways to get other revenue sources to maybe donate back to the city, but, I think this has to be right now, and I think Jeremy Tans can give you some more information on how quickly they need this money. But I don't want to see it go, and I don't think anybody in the city or county want to see it go either. So,
Aaron, is this $250,000? I mean, is that a one-time deal, or will that be a reoccurring?
So the bill is for it to be a reoccurring thing, but what they've also tried to do the past couple of years is have it as like a budget appropriations or however that works. For them to do it, petitioning IDOT to give it as a one-time thing, and it just hasn't gotten over the hump yet. So it would be a perpetual thing.
So it's similar to what Missouri does now?
So exactly. And I don't know exactly how that would work, but I'd imagine it'd be similar to Missouri, where whatever they spend, they would get a reimbursement from the state up to $250,000. And right now, Missouri gives $88,000. So it'd be well above what Missouri gives. And I don't know where they came up with that number of 250,000, but man, that sounds pretty good. And what I think is kind of lacking, and I've been racking my brain over why is this not successful. Well, there's been a lot of turnover in my position. I'm not sure if my predecessors have thought that this was a very, like a big asset for them, but it kind of.
You probably didn't think it was in danger either.
Well, that's true, yeah. But, even you promoting it and promoting kind of this region as a French heritage region, because, I went to that international showcase, and, a lot of the people from Quebec and France and things like that were like, well, what do we do? We would like to go to Missouri, but how do you keep us in the area? And, since then I've been going, I've been finally taking trips to Fort de Chartres and Kaskaskia, and I'm like, there's a lot here, there really is, even if you package kind of old mines in it and just the stuff that people could do around here. And so, I've been thinking about even packaging a trip, and, this international showcase thing has spurred me to think of this, but I think it's for everyone, at a national level or even a local level. Come here, go to the Fort de Chartres rendezvous, which happened last week, and then stay for the French Heritage Festival. And that's why I'm trying to make the French Heritage Festival the best it's ever been, because, the Fort de Chartres, when you go there, you're like, man, this many people come out into the middle of nowhere for this? And it's a great event. So, if we could piggyback off of that, I think we could really make the French Heritage sort of relevant here. And, we get it saved this year. I will do a lot more promotion of it, and let's see if that increases the revenue as well and makes it a little bit more of a standalone thing. We don't have any signage to it, and that's another thing. If it goes away, I've got these grants for signage that I would like to use some of that on making ferry signage, because you don't know where it is. And the Illinois side's even worse. You're driving towards and you're like, man, I'm driving back roads, middle of nowhere. Where is this? But even here, it's like, it's really tough to find the ferry. We got a couple of signs, but, so yeah, so I think there's a lot of different things that have made that like not a success, but man, when people do find it, they're like, this is charming, and that we can't keep losing the things that are unique to this area. We're kind of backsliding with the wineries and stuff like that. And it's like, I'm feeling a little bit, the ground shifting under me. I'm like, whoa, we gotta, put a halt to these things where we can, so.
Has anyone reached out to the state of Missouri? I mean, last year with their $6 billion budget surplus, maybe they need to ante up on there, and especially if Illinois throws in 250,000, that should be.
Well, and I think the thing has been, Missouri doesn't want to put in any more if Illinois is not going to put anything in. So if there's movement from Illinois, even movement, like, hey, they see the value in this. Can you, up your budget as well? And I think we're just starting those talks. I mean, this literally kind of got dropped in my lap only a few weeks ago, and it's like, okay, how do we? And I'm willing. I think I've got between $8,000 and $10,000 left in my budget that I could allocate towards this, and I think,
Let's save some of this discussion for our work session.
Oh, sorry.
Because we want to get into it pretty deep as far as, and get Jeremy's input too. And so I think because I think it's an important topic, so we can maybe carry this into the work session.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Anything else that you got on?
I do have a couple of questions.
Sure.
On the billboard, is there only one billboard?
There's only one billboard right now.
From what I understand, it takes 2 to 3 billboards to get a person's
He
attention.
needs more funding, Teddy. He's going to come to you this fall for some more funding.
Well,
So
I can
just be prepared for that.
Sure.
That's good. I'm glad you're on board for that.
Right. So you're going to go for additional billboards to get the funding.
Yeah, I would love to.
People usually see one, you'll buy it, you don't remember what it was.
Yeah, exactly.
I got a question. Who takes care of the flood park? Who, the signage and everything at the flood park?
Sure.
Is that through you or through Parks?
I think it would be through Park Board. Yeah, exactly.
Through the park board. Do you think there's something we can get done there? Spruce it up, get a new sign? Maybe put some narrative on there about what the people went through with these floods and things, That's just another place for people to stop and look besides liver dumplings and everything else. So
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. Love to work with you on that.
that's all I have. Thanks.
Okay, thank
Any
you.
other questions for Aaron? Thanks. Thanks, Aaron. I think that concludes staff reports. Public comments. Is anyone here for public comments? Move on to consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second. I got a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Moving on to old business. Bill number 4674, an ordinance approving a budget amendment to the City of St. Genevieve for the fiscal year 2025 budget relating to various revenue and expenditures increases. Second reading. Any discussion? Motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
Bob, did you have some discussion?
Nope.
Okay. A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Oh, we're going to need a roll call vote, Pam?
Alderwoman Dobbs. Yes. Alderman Fahy.
Yes.
Alderman Donovan.
Yes.
Alderman Huey.
Yes.
Alderman Eidman.
Yes.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderman Prince.
Yes.
Alderman Steiger.
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no's. Bill number 4674 now becomes ordinance 4595.
Move to new business. The first is bill number 4675, and we have the option to go into closed session.
Is that needed or?
I think dealing with contracts, I think we should start maybe in closed session, then come back out and have some more.
Make a motion to go into closed session and discuss real estate.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to go into closed session for bill number 4675.
And 4676.
Well, it's for purposes of real estate and negotiated contracts.
Yep. As stated.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Roll call.
A roll call vote, please.
Alderman Steiger.
Yes.
Alderman Prince.
Yes.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderman Eidman.
Yes.
Alderman Huey.
Yes.
Alderman Donovan.
Yes.
Alderman Fahy.
Yes.
Alderwoman Downs. Yes. Motion carries 6.
Let's see.
Can you reach out? Oh, sorry.
Just in the- I'm about meeting the clock. That sounds good.
How do I?
You're no. So you got new business items.
We're back into open session. We will continue with bill number 4675, an ordinance of the city of St. Genevieve authorizing the mayor to enter a development agreement with McBride Land Growth LLC as the developer of a residential subdivision for 49 acres located on Progress Parkway.
Motion to approve. Second.
I need a voice vote. All those in favor to approve ordinance 4675 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Move on to bill number 4676, an ordinance of the city of St. Genevieve authorizing the mayor to enter into a purchase agreement with McBride Land Growth LLC as the developer of a residential subdivision for 49 acres located on Progress Parkway.
Motion to approve. Second.
Have a motion and a second by Jeff. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. No other new business.
Since we have a guest here, I don't know the open session, you want to just give them an introduction to maybe.
Yeah, we are moving into other business, and we would be happy to host McBride to the podium and maybe just introduce yourself and maybe give a timeline maybe of the project and what you guys have. Sure. So not too much, but maybe just make a quick introduction and a timeline of kind of what you're anticipating.
So Jeremy Roth with McBride Homes, and again, thank you very much. We appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other mayor or board of aldermen communication? Anybody else got any topics that they want to go?
Happy we can put our renter out there on notice, so timeline of what's going to go on.
So they knew this was coming.
That's out there, do their engineering and stuff, just so that we get everybody knows what's going on, so they can get their access and get their project started.
Yeah, because we actually are, this is moved up from what I thought. I was thinking it was going to be next year, so this is great, but we'll have to work.
Motion to adjourn?
Yep.
Second. Got a motion and a second to adjourn? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Work session, if we can have Ferry Funding request is the, let's see, call to order, and we need an approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Move on to business item. First item is Ferry Funding request. This is item number 1. We have,
I think Do you want to start, or Jeremy, do you want to talk a little bit about the funding? So the issue is that they are low on money.
Regional Planning Commission is the contracted does administrative.
And see what's going on in the way of funding for for that ferry. His request to me was to bring to the board a request for financing to get them through the next 3 months, because you feel like you've got some funding coming potentially, grant funding that you're looking at, but at this point, if nothing happens with any funding coming in, it's out of business as of the end of June.
Yes, so we're kind of at that tipping point. And reimbursements usually don't hit till late August, early September. And we ran out of the old 5311 in March. So April and May have been kind of operating on some reserves. Those are going to be out by the end of this month. So the ask is some funds to kind of match that those 5311 funds, that once they get approved, those probably still won't come for later. So we really need some operating funds to keep it running until that funding can come in. But once the 5311 gets approved and the 88,000, those will match each other, and it should get us through next June.
So those are the facts. If you want the emotion, we have Aaron come in.
Right. What's the, I'm prepared to cry on the minute. But what's the number?
25,000.
Yeah. So originally we put together 25,000. We figured that would be like 3 months of operating costs, just flat. The way I would propose we would do that is it would be authorized, but we would submit invoices and all that stuff and only draw down what was needed. We wouldn't request the full 25. So if we start getting federal and state funding and we only need 15, that's all we'll take.
The operating costs of the salary of the operators and the fuel?
Insurance.
Insurance is a big one. But what we're looking at now is pretty much just salary, fuel, and that type of stuff right now, as just basic operating costs. The insurance won't start again until August. That's when the next policy takes place. Our insurance rate since looking at 2021 to now has had over almost 32% increase in insurance. The insurance are 32%.
So what number?
Last year it was a little over $42,000 for insurance, just for the boat and barge and operate. That we haven't gotten the quote yet for this coming year. We're expecting probably another 5,000-6,000 increase. Those should be able to be reimbursed.
That you would have to close and stuff, just a scenario. I mean, do you lose any Coast Guard certification then?
No, those are annual. So as long as those are in place, it's fine. The ferry has those issues when the river's real high and the river's real close and low, it has to close for safety. If there's a technical or mechanical issue and they have to close for maintenance or repairs, that stuff happens still. So if we do have a closure, it's probably kind of like along those lines until we can start getting those reimbursements in.
So how realistic is this Illinois thing? I mean, is this a long shot? Is it a good chance? I mean, and I'm going to lead up with another question and stuff. In the event that you'd get that $250,000, and I don't know, would the city be looking for reimbursement or what? I mean, what all happens in that case?
On these funds?
Yes.
I don't think so. I don't think there would be any reimbursement out from these funds. This would be a gift to keep these going. This should be a one-time request. If I would think if we were back in this position again, it would be a different conversation whether we really want to, if it's a feasible thing to keep operating.
And are you implying that if we don't get the funding now and the ferry doesn't operate for a month, it's not going to restart when those other funds come in?
No, it should restart because the 5311 funds, the way they've been explained to us for this current round is they will backdate that award to April 1. So we'll be able to recoup those expenses, but it's a 50% reimbursement. So we only get half of the expenses reimbursed through that program. But that should be enough to start operations and get us moving again at that point.
We could be out of operation
a month or two. Mm-hmm.
But it would restart.
The busiest month or two.
Yeah, it would be the busy. You'd be looking at closures in July and August.
That's it though. We're the match, right? For the 5311.
Yeah. Yeah, we would use those funds as the match to get the reimbursement. So
we're the half match, or we're either paying the full freight, or we're paying half with the federal funding that he's looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And the primary reason for all of this is tourism. There's not transportation needs or current business would go out of trouble.
Yeah, if you had a chance to see the survey results, those are posted up on the CMOJ. Yeah, so almost 79% of the responses were tourism related on why they use that ferry.
And you're looking for extra revenue, and have you approached the farmers or anybody else that uses the ferry?
That's been approached. The operators like Kurtz's are involved in the operation side of things. They're a partner in that. They have in the past floated funds to keep it operating. But I haven't heard any conversations on that side at this point.
So have you reached out? You haven't reached out to any of the farmers?
I don't think they use it as much anymore, Teddy. Most of them have purchased equipment for both sides of the river, and they don't transfer equipment like they used to.
Oh, they don't?
Not as much. No, they've done where they have separate equipment for both sides of the river.
Okay.
They have such big equipment, some of it wasn't
fitting anyway.
A little bit stuff, but
okay.
As far as the Illinois funding you asked about, that it's got the most support we've had for that we know of. And so whether it's likely, I don't know, 50-50, I'm not sure. It really depends on that, you're looking at Springfield politics and that type of stuff. I mean, Aaron's working closely with a group in Chicago, so that does help. When you get that northern support for something, that does help push things forward. But if we were to get that funding, that would open up new avenues. Like that $55,000 short, that's bare minimum operating. That's not any, they're spending no money on advertising, they're spending no money on signing because there is no money to spend. So that if we were able to get that, you would have extra money to be able to do those types of things. Or they would have that money.
How did they come up with that, that number,
I really don't know where that.
I guess, for me too, it's like when they were working with Terry Bryant, I mean, she had said something in her last email, like, her and some Missouri representatives were able to speak with the governor.
Mm-hmm.
What Missouri representatives were those, I'm wondering, I guess.
Well, I know Mr. Inman went over. He's the operator. He spoke with them, and I think they did have a couple of state representatives at that time go as well.
Okay, excellent.
Will this extra money allow them to get a second pilot, be open more than 3 days a week?
Possibly.
With hard to get in there.
They are. So with the 5311 money, when that comes in, we should have enough to operate full time. It would really, we'd have to look again. That's operations. That would be more for the St. John Ferry side.
If it's not moving, it's not making money.
That's true.
So if you receive this bridge money from the city and stuff with, the other funding you'll have coming in, that will basically keep you in operation till when?
Should keep us in through June of 2026, June 30th, 2026. And then the MoDOT funds will kick in again. So probably December of 2026, unless there's additional 5311 or Illinois state funding.
I don't know, that's a chunk of money. I mean, is there any way, I know you're looking for, an amount, you said that you wouldn't use the whole thing, possibly, or, we wouldn't be on the hook for 25,000, maybe something less than that, but.
And that was the estimate for 3 months of operating costs. The request is really just for anything to help. So.
Right. I'm just wondering if there is a way to break this down a little smaller and we don't know what our income's going to be for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know where we are on tax, income and stuff right now, but, just wondering if there's a different way if we could do this in 2 steps or something, but,
I think the request is to set that aside, so it's available, not that you're gonna take all of it, but that we have that, and we say, yeah, here's 25,000, use what you need, but please no more.
Mm-hmm.
But we will have to pull them out of capital projects and not out of general fund, because we don't have it in that.
say that
It
again.
has to come out of our reserve fund, our capital project fund.
Right.
So it doesn't come out of general fund, it's in a separate line item,
So what decides that?
because we don't have enough in general fund.
Right. There's another,
I understand.
The primary benefit is tourism. Don't we have tourism money someplace?
This would not apply to tourism, my understanding of what the tourism budget is for. It's more for marketing and it's mostly for marketing and whatever the tourism items are that we put in around town with signage and that.
Can we buy a banner for the ferry and put it on the side of the ferry? Or marketing of St. Genevieve tourism
So,
activities?
but that would be separate. I mean, the banner's not gonna cost $25,000.
It might.
If we buy it from the ferry.
That's
Got one on each side. Yeah.
Liver dumpling sign.
NASCAR stickers for the tug.
are we the one and only shot, or have you reached out to other
We've reached out, no, we sent this request to the county, we sent it to Randolph County, Perry de Rocher, we sent it to the Fort Chart. The request has gone out, it's just, everybody's tight, so.
And everybody said no?
I've seen, the only reply I've gotten is from the Prairie Rocher Village Council.
Pretty small entity.
Right. But they offered a lot of help with letters and travel and stuff like that. So that's great, but.
I think it's according to what the city wants to invest in. Is this something we want to invest in? Do we need the ferry? I would think so.
I think we need tourism.
So what's the big deal about putting 25,000 away and having them use it? It's an investment to our city.
Well, we're also being asked to invest in a bridge now that we weren't originally going to be paying anything on, and I mean, everybody's coming out.
I didn't hear what you, I'm sorry, what was that?
I mean, we're being asked to contribute to a bridge now that we weren't planning on doing anything. We weren't planning on doing a lot of things, and that's fallen in our lap.
Things happen.
I mean, I don't mind helping, but we need to get other entities involved as well.
So did the county of St. John say no, or did they just not respond?
They did not respond.
I forced their hand and say yes or no. I know they're in,
Financial.
So are we.
Well, yeah.
dire needs and stuff. I mean,
But I would imagine the same issues that are impacting them are impacting you as well.
Yeah, and I don't want you to take by my questions. I'm negative.
No, I understand completely.
I just asked a lot of questions.
Aaron, if you talk to the Chamber of Commerce, which does the most every
Gina's on vacation right now, but I sent the email and, some of her board members were in that email. Again, haven't heard anything back, but I will get out in front of them. I've got Prince Heritage Festival this weekend, so that's why. I mean, I've been kind of splitting time, taking time away from that to work on this ferry thing, but next week things free up and I can get out in front and see, if we set this money aside for that, then, I'll get out and see who's gonna give what.
Do you have any other corporate donations toward, I know there is some signage, but I know the railroad uses the services of the ferry to cross quite often. I don't know if any of the mining operations use the ferry to cross as well.
No, we reached out to the mining operations. They did say they have some employees that use it, but nothing major. Yeah. And the railroad pays fare like everyone else does.
I don't know if it would have a huge impact on their business, but I know the convenience factor of having to, but that would be just to find the right person to speak to at the railroad would be
challenge in itself.
Yeah. I didn't know if there was any other corporate entities that use it on a regular basis that might be inclined to.
Say we send Aaron to Springfield and let him strong arms people.
I'm getting close.
When do you need an answer from us, Herman?
Huh?
When do you need an answer from us? This would
as-
have to come back to the board
Yeah.
in an ordinance form, and we have to have 2 readings on it. So like, when would you need an answer on this?
As soon as possible. I mean, we're looking at, we're 2 weeks from the end of June now, 2.5. So, yeah. We'd probably, without some kind of gap funding, we'd be looking at a temporary closure July 1.
When's our first meeting in July?
July 10th.
10th.
I would say that we need to read it twice at the next meeting. We have it already and available. Next meeting is July 26th. I'm sorry, June 26th.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should do that. I think this should be a priority for a town that tourism during the height of the season, they have a one-time bridge funding. I think it's vital to our town. The events and weekends and that we're looking in July and August are substantial. And if we lost that tourism, there'd be a cost to that.
I'd be okay with having, at least bringing the ordinance here and to have a vote on the ordinance. Is everybody else okay with at least voting on it at the next meeting?
I think we need to.
Yeah.
And if we had to do it twice, that's fine.
Maybe in the meantime, some of your efforts might get some other pledges and lower that number and make it that much, more feasible for us to vote yes on it. So
Absolutely.
I hate to put the burden back on you, but it would make it a lot easier for us.
No, I understand.
That'll give you some more time to maybe get some additional pledges.
Yep.
Anybody else got any other questions for them?
Well, I just want to, the amount more than I want to say, I'm not against it and stuff, but I would want this to be clear. This is a one time. I don't think it would be in the city's best interest every year to come back, for this and stuff. I think I definitely would be one and done, with this and stuff. But I think as Alderman Fahey brought up, I have a long history. My dad used to run that ferry a long time ago when it was Snap and Jewels Ferry. Privately owned and stuff, but it's a whole different ball game now. But it is important. I don't think it's something the city should be doing every year.
Understand.
We'll vote it on at the next meeting.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Next agenda item, fire district discussion. Number one, equipment. You want to give us a background?
So there's a bunch of equipment in a building that we probably aren't going to need. So the question is, what do you want to do with it? Obviously, the fire trucks themselves, the equipment that's on the fire trucks, I've included a lot of just to kind of give you an idea of the amount of equipment that is involved in a fire department. So you have copies of that, page after page after page, because of what you have to.
You said not to send that out. Did you guys get a copy of that?
No.
No, you did?
I didn't.
You said not to send that, to have it available here because it was, did you send it in your work session packet?
Yeah.
Oh,
I didn't see it.
Yeah, what I did want was the elevation.
that's right. I'm sorry. Pardon me.
It would have had in the updated agenda that came out on Wednesday.
Yeah.
I didn't scroll down that.
Well, this is what it looks like. It's just, it's an inventory. What we needed was an inventory from the fire department. So the question is, what do we do with that equipment if we don't donate it? There's a sweet Suburban I'd love to have. I'm just kidding. We don't need hoses. We don't need the other stuff. It doesn't seem to behoove us to keep it. If you want to sell it to the fire district, you then put them into debt. And that would have to be negotiated. Otherwise, you're looking at a donation.
I'm okay with the donation.
And a lot of this stuff was basically acquired through grants. It wasn't all line item budget things that taxpayers paid for and stuff. But it's very customary for cities to donate their equipment. This is a win-win. A lot of different avenues. We need to donate the equipment, the building. I know Happy's got a little different thought process there.
We'll get to that. Let's stay on just the equipment real fast, Bob. You sounds like you want to donate?
Absolutely.
Okay. Anyone else opposed to donating the equipment? Okay, sounds like we're in agreement to donate the equipment.
Okay. And there's a big process that goes through the state fire marshal with that. So, we'll pursue that later. Tax reduction. This was also brought to the board, and there was a resolution that said that the city board would consider when we have our tax issue come in August, that we would reduce it comparable to what their budget is or what they've spent. Well, in my opinion, what they've spent every year in the fire department in the general fund, not including what's in the rural fire fund, but what's in the general fund. So it can be anywhere from $150,000 to $175,000. We estimated about 18 cents. We'll go through and do the numbers again. But I just want to make sure that when we do that, when we have this come before us in August, that we fill out that paper correctly and bring it to you with that reduction. Whatever, the comparable amount in the general fund, and we're going to put it into the police department Prop P tax, because I'd like to see that reduced rather than general fund, because the general fund can be used for everything, whereas Prop P is supposed to be for just salaries. And I think we've covered that pretty well with our salary study. We know where the police officers should be, all employees actually should be.
I think everybody on this board except for Sam and Teddy voted yes to approve that tax reduction. So I don't know if Teddy or Sam have any input on this, but I would be okay with moving forward, of course.
No,
with our,
I like what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it's a win for the city taxpayers. I mean.
right.
Yeah, and I think that's what helped get it passed as well with those voters. The building discussion is centered on whether to donate the building, as you just heard, or to, in my opinion, the city should retain it. We should then do a triple net lease where they're responsible for everything, and they get it at the bargain price of $1 a year for the first 5 years. So we have a 5-year window that see how things are working. And then you have another, then you come up with another contract. At that point, there may be some other discussion or some other issues that have come up. What I'm concerned with is that at some point that they would think of maybe moving somewhere else. And then that building could be reverted back to the city for some use. So that's why I don't want to let go. I think it's important that we retain it. They'll have insurance, they'll cover the insurance on it. They'd be responsible for the maintenance. Cities win on that, it's just that we retain it.
Well, I mean, a way around that, if their board did not like that, wouldn't we be able to just retain first right of refusal if they were to ever go to sell it?
I'm of the opinion that the city should absolutely not transfer ownership of that building to the fire district. I don't think.
But I mean, if it came down to it, that is an option we would have to get it back if they were to relocate.
True, if the city were to transfer ownership, you can, but you have to draft it properly, and then you have to assert it should whatever conditions come to pass at that point. And then it's a right of first refusal. So what is that? You have to have terms with that. What I'm saying is I don't think it's. I'm recommending that the city retain ownership of the land for future use. The city may deem appropriate, especially in light of the decisions to donate all the equipment. And then the next discussion is going to be funding, which is city property. And the net difference to the fire district is they'll still be able to have the building without any cost, guaranteed for a length of time. If we have a 5-year lease initially, that it provides them with that stability and ability to continue to provide fire service. But you certainly could envision a scenario in which the city would have a use for that building for other purposes. Whatever those may be. But if we transfer that building to them, you'd at least want some sort of reversionary clause, but sometimes those are difficult to enforce. But they do work. But if you're thinking about doing that, why not just keep ownership of it?
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, where did the 5 years come from? I don't really like that. That's, to me, that's not enough for them to.
I prefer year to year.
Well, wow. Okay. I don't.
The city's building. Right. And so this is a separate taxpayer supported entity, and this is a major asset of the city. And the city taxpayers have paid for that for use of the city, and now there's an overlaying a separate public entity. And I'm comfortable with a lease as long as 5 years at no cost to them. But again, that's a policy decision, of course.
To your point, though, the people that will be in that fire district were also the ones that paid for that building to be built in the first place, too. So we're talking about the same taxpayers on both sides of the coin. So I agree with you. I think the 5 years is not arbitrary. I think it's probably fair. It gives the fire district some time to get going. It gives the city some time to potentially take it back if the fire district decides to move or add another station or something along those lines. So
Well, and I don't want to say this because it may ruffle some feathers, but this is a brand new entity. We don't know how effective it's going to be. We assume it's going to be just as effective as the city fire department. The city is authorized to have a fire department now. So I envision a scenario which has occurred where there are disputes between city fire departments and county fire departments. Now, the city plans to not have a fire department ever because of this new district that's created the overlap. But what happens if that fire district becomes dysfunctional or non-functional? Then where are we at? So there are other concerns that are long-term, 10, 20 years down the road that I have to consider as an attorney because I represent this public entity. And I know that the county voters benefit from city services and vice versa, and fire districts and ambulances who are all overlapping. So that's the reasoning behind why I'm saying the city should retain ownership of that type of asset. Because we don't know where either entity is going to be in 5 years, or in 3 years or 2 years. So that's where I'm coming from. That's, again, a public policy decision. You certainly have the legal right to transfer assets to another public entity for that public purpose.
Happy whenever, kind of getting into this triple net lease and stuff like that, because there's a couple issues that always come up. One is the roof. Who's responsible for the roof? Who's responsible? I mean, we paid for painting of the building, and I don't remember how we actually paid for that last paint job. That wasn't in their budget, I don't think. We just outlaid money for that.
No, it was capital improvements.
Right, capital improvement. So we spent how much?
40,000, wasn't it?
40,000. So, there's some incidental savings that we'll get out under, along the way. But so
well, the triple net, normally they're responsible for all maintenance. It behooves them.
That's never a decided fact. That's one of the issues that are negotiated and stuff, because it is part of the building, but it is an expendable, thing and stuff. So, so the triple net lease that we would provide, they have to paint it. They have to, the roof for us, have to paint the roof, or that's all on them.
I mean, the thought would be eventually the relationship would be good enough and that we would transfer it.
Right.
They would want to keep the building in good shape, but they didn't inherit a dilapidated building.
So even in the equipment, say there's a failure of the district in 10 years, we've donated it to them now. Does it come back to us, or can we put a provision in there that?
I mean,
do you want a 20-year-old fire truck?
In theory,
we have them already.
I mean, with the equipment that they use, 5 years is a long period of time. And on vehicles, with fire trucks, that'd be up to you. I wouldn't even pursue an attempt to try to retain or regain possession of fire hoses. And I mean, they may be very valuable, but it'd have to be inspected and properly maintained during that period of time.
Because we have to go back and get the fire department deal. We're talking billions.
Yeah, but if we're going after we're donating used trucks now. If by chance they were defunct in 5 or 10 years, we would be trying to go back after, because the new trucks that they buy would be theirs.
Right.
And so we wouldn't be just getting those back, new ones that they buy. We would only be going after the ones we donate today, and they'll be 5 or 10 years older, and they'll be rotated out. So I don't think that's kind of a moot point. I don't think we'd ever want those back, because they'd just be.
I'd be okay taking their new stuff back.
Well, but they would be paying for that.
That's just a scenario that hopefully never happens.
I'm okay with the 5-year. I think it gives us some flexibility, and it keeps the building in good shape, and it gives the new fire district an opportunity to really get their legs underneath them to figure out what they want to do.
So just simply looking at the numbers, they're going to have more money to work with. So that'll be a big positive for them, keeping it up, and the independent board that governs them. That's their job.
And talking verbally to a few of them, I think they're okay to start with this 5-year triple lease as well.
So, but the problem with that is, I mean, is that binding, or does that, because in 5 years, we could potentially have a completely new board, new mayor, everything. Are they still bound to that?
Okay.
The new board could then force the same.
Is the new fire board, I mean, well, are both entities still bound to that 5 years if there's a complete turnover? I mean, that's a solid 5 years, no matter who's in.
So the way I look at it is renewable. It is renewable. It's a 5-year agreement, but it's renewable every year. So you're not going to continue it. If they're not going to continue, we're not going to continue. In 90 days out, somebody has to contact the other person so that you can get out of that agreement for whatever reason.
So if we visit it every year, we can restart the time clock of 5 years.
Well, you'd have to redo the contract if you're going to extend that end date.
Because I just don't think 5 years is enough for them to get started. I'd like to see it more than that. I mean,
It's more than they have. They don't have a building.
I think that would give a new board here an opportunity to kind of see how it's going and not obligate a new board to what we did is, I try to limit, don't you try to limit how far out you want to do on an agreement? Just, things change. I mean,
Cities usually don't contract more than 3 to 5 years with any entity.
I mean, I'm fine with it. I wish it was longer, but it is what it is. I just don't want to get stuck in, like we did with the Welcome Center, doing alarm system, doing this, doing that. And, we're paying for all this stuff on a building we're giving away, to the National Park Service.
Well, a portion of that was paid for by the Park Service. That's part of the grant that
We
they
still
give
did a
us.
lot of stuff down there in the meantime. And, I'm fine with the 5 years. I just wish it was more, but so they can get on their feet better. And I don't know.
well, this would require them to do maintenance, their maintenance.
Well, yeah, but
What is the term of their board members? Isn't it years?
It's 654.
4 and 2.
642. That's it. Yeah.
Right.
There's
So
one.
there'll be some overbinding of terms up there. And I think they've got an excellent board, and I think they'll maintain and improve.
We okay bringing that one back as a voting for a 5-year?
Okay. Item 4. Kenny's been holding up the back wall, and now he can come up here and help. So this was in the first meeting between the board and the attorney after the election, trying to determine when they were going to start, what their budget year is, when they want to start functioning as a fire district. Decided on a calendar year, right, for your budget year?
For budget, we would like to do a calendar year, January to December.
So we work on a fiscal year, we start October 1. So the question was, how do we carry between October and January this year when working on budget? And I think your group came up with the idea of using rural fire fund.
Yeah.
So if you want to explain that a little bit.
But basically what we're looking at is, when I look at what I spent over the first 7 months, I'm needing about $50,000 minimum to get from the end of the current budget year till we think we're going to start getting funding in January. Suggestion was made that we have the rural fire fund that's always been kind of designated towards fire operations. And if the city would be willing to turn that over to the district, then October 1, we would be separate, be our own district, and we wouldn't be going through the budget process and everything else for 3 months. So it'd be a way to get us off on our own sooner and get you guys, or keep you guys from having to go through the budget system with 3 months for the fire department.
One less item for us to deal with on our budget. We wouldn't have the fire department to go through on our budget for this coming fiscal year.
Right.
Yep.
And there's money in that rural fund. And we got to decide. It's technically the city's money. So we have to decide. There's about $200,000 in that fund right now. It's kind of for firefighting because it is in that rural fire fund. So could the city keep it and use it for other things? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But so this was a good solution to get them off of the city budget starting October 1st, and a solution what to do with some of that rural fire fund money that is out there.
We put a fire hose on the ferry.
For 20.
Very.
It's considered general fund. You have it in rural power.
One of those ones that are.
For dedicated fund, that's what I.
It's just general, it's general revenue. You have it allocated as fire fund, but it's to provide services outside of the city's district area. Now, you generally want to appropriate it for that use. We don't have to, because you're already appropriating all the other tax revenue to have the fire department exist. So that's general fund. I mean, if you budget.
Even though it's a dedicated fund?
You budgeted as a rural fire fund, but that is revenue, like a fee revenue. It's general revenue. It's not, so like, for instance, you can use debt service funds to purchase, or capital funds to purchase a fire truck, but when you sell that fire truck, then that's general fund. And you can spend it any way you want. Similar concept. So this is general revenue, it's a fee for service fund, so you can spend it for whatever purpose you want to spend on the fair. You can spend it to transfer them to help their operations.
This $50,000 number that you talked about.
Yep, that was just
it's the whole rural fire fund.
I was just looking at trying to get an idea what it would take to get us through to the January when we think we were going to start getting our tax funding from the county's collection. And that was just taking what I spent over the first 7 months, dividing it by 7 and multiplying by 3 to get what I think we will spend in that 3-month period.
So what happens? The rest of it.
Yeah, just go back into general fund.
Right.
Well, I mean, here's the deal. That money wouldn't be there if he didn't go out and get all these grants. He would have done.
Well, some of this is like rural fire tags. So.
Well, I get it, but he would have already spent all that money
Yes.
had he not went out and got all these grants. It's technically still, I don't want to say still his money, but it's still earmarked for the fire department. And
We're officially paying him to write those grants right now.
doesn't matter. He worked on them a lot.
He's officially a city employee now, so.
We put the 25,000 in the general fund for the ferry and give them the rest. Would that work?
I mean,
You said you can use our general fund.
we need to decide.
You said you didn't have enough.
Let's keep it separate.
No, I don't like that because the rural fund can't, that money, I mean, I know it's went into general fund, as you say. However, the people that paid that money paid it for fire service. So that money should stay for fire service. Whether it goes to general fund or not, that's why they paid that money. That's why that revenue came in. We don't have a right to spend it somewhere else. I don't think so.
Well, he has a public.
If it goes in the general fund,
But it's not.
Well, I'm just,
They received fire protection
you can
service.
spend it any way you
I
want.
mean, they may not have gotten a call, but I'm not going to argue the public policy. I completely understand you want to budget it for that purpose, but it's not a legal requirement. That's all I'm saying. It's not
Yeah.
a legal requirement.
Just talk about it should stay and stuff. I mean, general fund money paid 40,000 to pay the fire department. I mean, there's taxpayer money that went for that the rural fire people with the fire tags benefited from and stuff. So it's a wash.
no, what I'm saying is that money should still go to them. I'm saying that's their money. I'm not saying it should stay in the city. That money, if they need it to function for 3 months to get going, it's to me their money anyway.
Right.
I'd like,
It was earmarked for them. It should stay with them.
can we approve the $50,000 transfer and table the other $150,000 roughly in there and have some more discussion about this? We're missing a couple of board members, we're missing a mayor, and just maybe agree to do at least the $50,000 to get them through January 1 and have some discussion.
That's fine with me. I don't think it's theirs.
And that was just a bare,
Yeah.
that was what I absolutely think I have to get through, because we get hit with insurance right at the beginning of the fiscal year. So I'm paying almost $20,000 in insurance right off the bat before we ever start doing any operations. But that was just a rough number, what I thought I had to get through. So
Have you crunched some more numbers and see if 50 is or 60 or, tell us what the number is and we'll earmark that and then we'll have some more discussion about what we should do with the remaining.
Okay, do that.
Yep. Any other?
So they could buy some, the other 150,000 or something.
Actually, what I would probably do if we had the extra, would ask the board to put it into a vehicle replacement fund right away. Whatever we don't use for, that the start of operations.
That's what you used it for most of the time anyways. You bought a pickup truck out of that, your side by side, the trailer.
The side-by-side was a grant, but the Suburban was bought, the replacement Suburban was bought out of rural fire fund. So,
Any other topics for tonight? Anything else you need from us?
That helps a lot. Thank you.
Move to adjourn.